I was thinking about this the other day. This whole remodel thing, which we've recently made some substantial progress on, I'm only doing this to build a traditional mantle. This is a lot of work just to build a mantle. I have another fireplace I could have just done this on. But as you can see, we've made some progress. We've got this other side of the wall framed up for windows. And then after that, we just kind of finished our electrical. We started with insulation, got all this insulated, and then of course put drywall on. And that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm gonna bring another sheet of drywall down this, so I'll come another 4 foot down, and then I'm gonna stop there because the rest of this work will be done in plywood around the fireplace. By the way, the fireplace is installed and up and running, gas works, everything's good to go. Of course, we're in the middle of summer now, so we're not gonna use it, but we'll be thankful for that come winter time. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Texas weather, we get snow here, we get ice, it gets cold, so definitely could use a fireplace in Texas. So this whole area with this mantle is kind of on hold until I really sit down with a pen and paper and sketch something out to my exact liking and pick out the moldings that I want to build this mantle with. I have a ton of inspiration, and it's just like putting them all together to try to make something unique. That's what I want to happen here. But until we get there, we've got other things we could be doing, and what we're going to get into is some white oak beams today. We might not get into the beams today, but we're going to frame for them and maybe get into them in the next video. I've got the material right here, and it's all white oak that's been resawn from 4/4 material. So all this stuff is about a 1/2 inch thick. We're going to be making box beams, of course. And some of these boards are pretty cupped, like those first 4 on top are pretty bad. The next 2 aren't as bad. I've tried to reverse cup these and I can't really seem to make any progress. So honestly, we've kind of just got to go with them and hope that when we nail them in, we can kind of flatten them out. But that's our white oak material that we're going to be making these out of. And for now though, we got to get started with our framing. So to frame for these, we're just going to build a simple structure. I'm cutting a bunch of blocks out of 2x8. These blocks will be screwed in from the top down to a longer 2x8. You'll see one right here in the background that John is assembling. But we're making a bunch of these blocks because we've got 5 beams spanning 18 foot each, a little over 18 foot. So here we're bringing them in and getting them staged for the installation. And that's pretty much it. That's all there is to it for these structures. All right, I'll get my side in and you can pivot off that.
It's good there?
Yeah, I'm good there. Did you grab?
Mm-hmm. Did you?
I didn't on this first one, but the second one did. Gotta scoot over a little bit. So we got our first piece of blocking in here. And obviously it's a lot easier to kind of have those screws already in position. Basically we just tap them in to this board with a hammer, and I already marked where our joist was, so that way when we come up here the screws are already in place and we literally just screw them in. We don't have to hold the screw and try to hold this thing up. It's just a lot more easier that way. So we did this in sections. We did a 10-foot piece of blocking and an 8-foot. This is the 8-foot, and we're gonna go over here and do the 10-foot now. The whole span of this room is just over 18 foot, so this should work out really good. Yeah, perfect. I got like a 2.5 inch gap. Yeah, if you're on your line, that's good. And the rest of this process is the exact same. The same way we did this first one, we're gonna do it to the other 4. Our 10-foot structure and our 8-foot structure each go into one side, and we're following our chalk lines that we snapped out in a previous video. So yeah, pretty repetitive here, and I think even just having these structures up, you can see the big picture. The easy part is now over. We've completed the framing, which was our blocking and screwing it into our joist. A couple of these we had to add blocking up for in the attic and really get them secured because unfortunately they all didn't land on a joist, but 3 out of the 5 did. So we had to do that for 2 of these So like I said, easy part's done. Now we get to move on to the hard part. And for this, I put together over 20 foot of Festool track right here. We've got our cut station set up here. We've got this track that altogether is right at 22 feet long, and it's pretty wild to see a track this long. We're doing it this way because our garage shop is just that. It's a garage, and I don't have room to push these boards through on my combination unit in there. Granted, I could like roll it around, it's pretty mobile, but I just don't, as much as these are cupped, I don't want to take them from like a hot environment back in here to a AC environment. A lot of these boards are cupped, and that doesn't really add up for a good outcome when you're pushing stuff through on the table saw. So I think this right here is going to be the secret to getting this done. I hope it works good. So we actually don't need this last section of track, this one right here. So I'm going to take this off. And we're right here without this one, just over 16 foot. And that's how long these boards are. So I got that one with the idea, because what we need across the whole span of this room is like just over 18. So I was like, oh, I need at least 18, but I don't think we're gonna have these glued together and cut them all in one, if that makes any sense. So we're gonna cut one at a time. We're gonna put a 45 on one side and then straight rip the other side. And we are gonna be here moving boards around for a while. So as it is with any kind of new task you're doing in carpentry, you kind of wanna figure out a system that works best for the location that you're in, like this room, and the task you're trying to perform. Once we got that figured out, it went really smooth. I mean, we got a rotation going. Okay, so our system here has been working. We have our two clamps clamped on the end. We're actually using a piece of 1x12 Windsor, the back of it, to support this whole thing. And it's been working great. We're about halfway done with the materials that we're cutting through. This is our finished stack right here, and this is what we're still going through. And it works super good. We would not be able to push these cupped boards through the table saw and get this clean of a result. So yeah, we're clamped in, ready to get this one ripped on one side, put a nice miter on it, track saw set at 45, and this thing just powers through it. There's our miter across this whole board. As far as the result on that miter, that thing is razor sharp and it will cut you. I know I'm not the only one who's ever cut a sharp miter and then tested it with my finger, sliding across it, and it slices you right open. I think every trim guy, woodworker has done that, where it's like, oh, that's a sharp miter. Oh yeah, it sure is, and you're bleeding. So stay away from these miters, they're very dangerous. So we spent the rest of the day getting these boards prepped just by getting that miter on them. And I gotta say, this was an odd way of doing things. I will admit, having this resawn material, but since I couldn't find anything longer than 16 foot and I needed 18 foot beams, this is what we had to do to get that book match grain that you're going to see when we get some of these up in the next video. So look forward to showing you guys the progress on this in the next one.